On Larry King Now, Academy Award-nominated actress, author, activist, and talk show host, Rosie Perez.
My managers called and said, would you be interested in having a conversation about possibly being a co-host on The View? And it was just dead silence. I was shocked. I was like, I don't know.
You've often been referred to as a boundary breaking in terms of what you've done for Latinas in film.
I started calling people on their stuff. Initially, oh my God, the negative response was horrific. And it wasn't just from white Hollywood, it was also from Latin Hollywood. They were telling me to stop trying to rock the boat. And I said, the boat needs to be rocked. I didn't really set out to write a book about my life per se. I set out to write a book about the anatomy of child abuse.
And now with football stories, it comes to the fore.
Oh, it's disgusting, it's terrible. And I cannot stand this excuse, well, that's what I was taught. That's the issue, that's the problem. You gotta break the cycle.
Plus.
You know what, can we talk about dancing, Larry?
We talk, yeah.
Yeah.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is Rosie Perez. We're in New York at the Paramount Hotel. She's the Academy Award-nominated actor, Emmy-nominated choreographer, and now one of the co-hosts of The View, the 18th season of that talk show, which premiered September 15th. She co-stars with Craig Ferguson in the upcoming animated film, Hero of Color City. That hits theaters and iTunes on October 3rd. Rosie also wrote the book that was published earlier this year called Handbook for an Unpredictable Life, How I Survived Sister Renta and My Crazy Mother and Still Came Out Smiling with Great Hair. Rosie Perez, still have great hair.
Thank you.
Explain the title of that book before we talk about The View. The world's longest title.
The world's longest title. It was actually all George C. Wolfe's fault. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to name my book. It's so difficult. And the publishers wanted to call it When the Rain Stopped. I said, oh my God, please. That's so depressing. Who would read that? And so they said, well, what about Unpredictable Life? And then George goes, no, you gotta say how you survived, blah, 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 and still came out with gray hair. And so that's where the title came from.
How did you and The View hook up?
They called me. Out of the blue, my managers called and said, would you be interested in having a conversation about possibly being a co-host on The View? And it was just dead silence. I was shocked. I was like, I don't know. And they said, well, there's a new executive producer. His name is Bill Wolfe. He is from, and I cut them off. I go, the Rachel Maddow show. I met him there. I said, now I'm interested. And they said, and this woman named Abra. I said, I know Abra. Now I'm very interested. And they said, interested enough in taking a meeting? I said, sure. Went in. They said the right things. And that same day, they called and they made the offer.
All right, since Rachel Maddow, and you knew him as the producer of that,
Yeah.
You therefore think the show's going to be more political?
I think it is already. But more importantly for me, it was about, I didn't want to be on a show where people were just screaming at each other disrespectfully. And I'm too old for that. And I was like, I don't want to go to work and face that every single day. And I remember Bill saying, I want to build a team of women that respect each other. You guys are going to argue, you're going to disagree, maybe not, but respect has to be in the room. And that was the number one thing. That was the number one thing for me. And then also, the issue of quality of life. I've worked really hard for almost 30 years now. And I like being home. I like being home. I like being in New York. I like my weekends. I love sitting on the couch, watching a good night of boxing with my husband. And that's it. Life is real. I'm a very simple person. There's a lot of complications deep inside. We'll talk about that later. But when it comes down to the brass tacks, that's all I need.
Were you a viewer of The View?
I was a viewer of The View initially. And then, to be quite honest, they lost me. And then I started watching it again a little bit towards the end. You know, I was friendly with Sherry Shepherd, so I started watching it for her.
She's nice.
Yeah, very nice woman. You know, but I think the yelling and the screaming really lost me.
Me too. Now the roster is you and Whoopi and Rosie O'Donnell and Nicole Wallace.
Yeah.
Each of you have a roles. What is Rosie on this? Is Rosie the liberal?
No, everyone is who they are. We don't have any categories. We don't have any labels for each other, except for Nicole Wallace, the poor thing. We keep calling her the conservative, but we don't have any labels really. And what's really strange is that there's not a lot of dialogue that happens before the show. Sure, we discuss which hot topics we're going to pick, but we don't elaborate on it. And so when we walk in and camera's up,
It's live.
It's live. It's live, and it's crazy. So, we don't know what's going to come out of anyone's mouth.
Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. My first day, I thought I was going to die. I was having this perpetual anxiety attack because it's such a different format for me. And being in front of the audience, not as a guest, but, there at the table, it was a little unnerving. And
more than dancing or acting or singing or all the other
you know what? Can we talk about dancing, Larry?
We talk, yeah.
Yeah. I was never a great dancer. I had great spirit. I had great spirit, and I had such passion when I danced. But I wouldn't say I was ever a great dancer. I was an amazing choreographer, can we talk? But dancing, no. It wasn't.
So you would not have won on Dancing with the Stars.
I would have been voted off first week, and I'm saying that because it was the same kind of feeling. Part of the reason why I wasn't a great dancer is that I would get really nervous in front of an audience, and being out there like that. And I had a similar feeling being on The View my first day, except when Rosie started to. When she made a comment about how athletes, they're violent on the field and then they're all violent at home. And I said, okay, wait a minute, because I love sports. I said, you can't make that generalization. And all of a sudden, it was on Easy Street, and I started to have fun.
Because, you got to go with the flow, right? The whole secret is there's no secret. Just be Rosie.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
There's no secret.
Yeah.
Up next, Rosie on gay marriage, marijuana legalization, and her revealing memoir. Stay with us. We're back with Rosie Perez, one of my favorite people. We talked about that memoir, Handbook for an Unpredictable Life. You write extensively about abuse in the book. Why so cathartic?
It wasn't cathartic initially. It started to be that for me probably about half a year after it was finished. And it came to me in that way because of other people's response to the book. I didn't really set out to write a book about my life per se. I set out to write a book about the anatomy of child abuse. Where it starts, how it happens, and what are the after effects. And I thought it was just my story. And the response that came back to me just blew my head. It just blew my head wide open. And I was like, wow, this is really, really crazy. Because no matter where you are from, what color you are, creed, what have you, unfortunately, a lot of people have experienced and are experiencing
and now
that
with
type
football
of abuse.
stories, it comes to the fore.
Oh, it's disgusting. It's terrible. And I cannot stand this excuse, well, that's what I was taught. That's the issue. That's the problem. You got to break the cycle. You can't fall back on that.
Wouldn't intelligence work?
You would think. You would think, And I remember as a child with the nuns when they would smack me. I even as a child, I was very precocious, believe it or not, Larry. And
I'm shocked.
yeah, and I remember telling the nun, I go, "How about if I smack you? Would you like that?" Crack, crack, crack.
It wasn't only the nuns that abused you.
It wasn't only the nuns, no.
At home?
It was at home too. Yeah.
Psychological and physical?
Yes, and I would say like the psychological was probably worse.
What scars did that leave?
I suffer from high anxiety still to this day. It's not as severe as it was. I used to suffer from dysthymia, which is like a sneaky type of chronic depression that just lies just right beneath normal. I still suffer from PTSD. It's not as grand as it once was for me because I went to therapy and went and got help. But those are still there.
Do you have a strict Catholic upbringing?
Oh, the strict? Are you kidding me? Yes.
What did your father do?
My father really wasn't religious. It was really the nuns that it was his life with the nuns. More so. My mother never went, I don't know if I think she only went to church for like a wedding or a funeral.
So why did they send you to Catholic schools? Why did they?
Well, in the book, my mother, for no good reason, put me in a convent run by nuns.
In a convent?
In a convent, Larry. In a convent.
She didn't want to be with you?
I don't know. I think that it was more of an issue of she didn't want anyone else to be with me. She didn't want my father to have me or my aunt to have me, and she wasn't able to take care of me, so she went and she put me in the convent.
She passed away, right?
Yes, she did.
Did you make amends before?
Yes, I did. I had to forgive her so that I can find some type of freedom from it all, you know? And in forgiving her, I realized I had to forgive myself because I was holding on to so much hate and so much resentment, and it's just not good.
Is your dad living?
My dad recently passed away now, but through it all, he's been my best friend.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
So he was never an abuser?
Never. My father, the way his discipline was talking to you or look.
So your mother was the psychological abuser,
Yes.
and the nuns were the physical abuser.
Well, Mom was psychological and physical.
Now, explain something ununderstandable to me. Why would a nun, and I've heard this all my life, hit people?
Good question.
The daughters of God, why would they hit people?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Do they still do that? To your
They're not
knowledge?
allowed to. They're not allowed to. But they used to do it, you know, but they're not allowed to.
And you being snappy, did you ever say, wait a minute, you are an emissary of the Lord. Why are you striking little children?
Well, I didn't put it in those terms.
That
It
puzzles
came out
me.
quite differently. But yeah, I used to challenge them constantly. And their response was more punishment, unfortunately. And I do have to say this, not all the nuns were like that. Majority of them were, but some of the nuns were fantastic. And when they left my life, I felt great pain and sorrow because they were wonderful to me, you know,
So a dichotomy.
Yeah.
What got you so interested in the fight against AIDS?
Initially, I did not know. I just felt this weird conviction inside of me to start advocating for rights for AIDS patients and finding a cure. And then later on, one of my best friends, I used to date him, contracted AIDS. And I was shocked. And he called me up and he said, Rosie, don't show up for the cameras. Don't do it for the cameras, do it for the cause. And I was like, wow. And that was it. I was on my way.
Coming up, we'll talk about Rosie's past on Soul Train and her future with Larry David. That's next. We're back with Rosie Perez. She's going to be on Broadway. She's on The View. You've often been referred to as a boundary breaking in terms of what you've done for Latinas in film. When did you become aware that they were kind of neglected?
Latins as a whole?
Yeah.
Oh, nobody's ever asked me that. I think I became aware of it once I became an actress. It was
Rita Moreno, Cheetah Rivera,
yes, but
Rosie
it didn't.
Perez, and
But it didn't. I never wanted to be an actress, so I was discovered, and so then I get into this business, and I'm like, oh my God, you guys are totally racist. This is so absurd. This is so stupid, and I just couldn't believe it. And I think that the stakes weren't high for me. You know, I wasn't thinking about my career, so I started calling people on their stuff. I would say, listen, things have to change. And how come I keep getting like 50 million offers to play the crack hoe? Where's the Jessica Lange roles? Hello? Yes, I'm no Jessica Lange, but honey, give me something. And I challenged them on it. And initially, oh my God, the negative response was horrific. And it wasn't just from white Hollywood, it was also from Latin Hollywood. They were telling me to stop trying to rock the boat. And I said, the boat needs to be rocked. You guys, I understand you have open wounds from how you were treated, but there have been wonderful people who have made strides on our behalf. We got to reap the benefits. We can't just sit there and just remain afraid.
No, you're the majority population in a few years.
That's right. Everyone's going to look like me.
Have things changed, though? Are they getting better?
They're getting better. Not enough. Not enough by far, but they're getting better.
I'm hearing so much about Fish in the Dark. I saw Larry David a couple months ago in L.A. You're in the play.
I'm in the play.
What is it about? Larry David.
It's Larry David. That's what I could tell you. It's
Well,
Larry
who do you
David.
play?
I play his father's maid, and in the play, I don't know if I'm allowed to say what the play is about.
Okay, maybe not.
But let's just say it's kind of
Quirky.
It's very quirky. It's very quirky, and it's not what you expect, but it's very Larry David. He's
the funniest writer in the business.
Oh my gosh! When we did the table read, everybody was in hysterics. It was so funny.
Who's the fish?
The fish is the fish.
It is a fish.
It's literally a fish.
Oh, okay.
Yes, a fish that you eat in the dark. Yes.
How did that Soul Train come about?
I was a college student out in LA, and to relieve stress, we used to go to this nightclub on Ladies' Night, and talent scout from Soul Train asked me to come on the show, and I couldn't believe it. It was as simple as that.
And you were a dancer.
I was a dancer. I wasn't a professional dancer, no.
You were in college at the time?
I was in college at
Majoring in biochemistry?
Majoring in biochemistry.
You wanted to be a science?
Yes, I wanted to be a scientist. Yes, I wanted to be a lab tech.
What made you switch?
Soul Train.
I mean, you got the show business bite?
I got the show business bite. Really, I wouldn't say it was from Soul Train. That was just fun. It wasn't real to me. I was just doing it for fun. And I was certainly not doing it for cash, because our payment was a 2-piece Kentucky Fried Chicken lunchbox. That was it. And which probably was completely illegal. But the thing that really got me was when I went to the premiere of Do the Right Thing. Because after filming Do the Right Thing, I went back to school. I was like, oh, that was cute. Okay, moving forward. And once I saw it put all together, I went, this is what I want to do. This is it. And I stopped everything. I dropped out of school. Everything. Everyone thought I was crazy.
You talked about nervousness.
Yeah.
You get nervous doing Broadway? You did Broadway before. Yes.
I get really nervous doing Broadway, but I'm a ham. And it just serves me well. I love to entertain. I've always loved to entertain people. And it's weird because as a dancer, I would be so nervous. But when I stepped on that Broadway stage, it was just like, hello. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun. How people, they say, I'm so stressed out by my career. Really? Really? And I'm just having a good time.
When you do comedy, like let's say Fish in the Dark. Now let's say it's hysterical, right?
It is hysterical.
How do you keep from breaking up?
I am so good at that. It's
You
very
are?
rare. Yes, it's very rare when someone could break face. It make me break face. Really. Yeah. I think that the only time I did that on stage was, I guess, starred in the play that I wrote, and it was directed by Carnal Knowledge, Mike
Nichols.
Mike Nichols, and it was a British play, and it was imported, but the main cast was still the British cast, and I couldn't keep a straight face every single night. Those guys, because they would go off script. You never knew what was coming.
What play was it?
It was called The Play That I Wrote.
The play that I wrote.
Yeah, and it was hilarious. It was.
So you laughed.
I laughed out loud every single night.
Will you continue to act? Now you're gonna let me get this. You're doing The View. You're gonna do a play.
Yeah.
And we working.
And a movie.
What
I
movie?
have a movie with Diane Wiest and David Oyelowo.
Oh, I love her.
Yes, I do too.
So you're gonna be doing a play and doing The View, right?
Yes.
You be on stage every night, and then that studio's live in the morning, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, it's so hard to get up early.
Rosie will answer your questions in our final segment, plus a game of If You Only Knew. We'll be right back with the very talented, delightful Rosie Perez. We're back with Rosie Perez. Lots of irons in the fire. Tell me about White Men Can't Jump. Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes. You keep in touch with them?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Was that fun?
That was the most fun I've ever had on a project, and that's saying a lot because I like to have fun, and I do. And that bond will never be broken, especially between Woody and I. And you know, he's a great man.
What did you think of him in True Detective?
I loved it. I loved him and Matthew. Yeah. I thought they should have swept the Emmys.
Me too.
They were just outstanding. It was outstanding work. Really good.
Okay, we have some social media questions for you. First, it's worth noting that a number of responses were men making marriage proposals, and you got married last year, right? A lot of people want to marry you.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Tell me about your husband. He's over there, very relaxed,
over there.
He's very cool.
Yes, his name is Eric Hayes.
And is he in show business?
Kind of. He's a contemporary artist. He paints, and he's also a graphic designer. He has his own brand that he services out to, like Heineken or G-Shock.
How'd you meet?
Oh, yeah, we met. It's complicated, but we met like about 17 years ago.
Okay, I don't want to get into it.
Okay, good.
This involves other people.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. We have some social media questions for you. Alex Townsend via Facebook wants to know who your dream guest on The View is.
Is or
who would you like to have on?
Who would I like to have? Gosh, I would like any. I would like to. Gosh, I would like to have a couple of boxers on. You never see them on television.
Mayweather.
I would love to have Mayweather. He's a very controversial figure.
I like him.
I do too.
I've been on The View quite a bit. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And Carlos Santana. I just find him beautifully weird. I would like to meet him and talk with him.
Alex Washington on Facebook. Will there ever be a Rosie Perez Jr.? Could your husband handle that?
You mean in regards to a child?
Yes.
I think I'm too old to
I'll give it a shot.
Give it a shot?
Faith Amber Smith on Facebook. What's your favorite movie you've been in?
My favorite movie I've been in. That's a difficult question because they fall in different categories for such. White Man Can't Jump was the most fun. Fearless was the most memorable and most challenging. The Take with John Leguizamo was the most moving. So you know they all serve their
As Woody, as Anthony Quinn told me once, everything I do is special to me.
It is.
At Steebox on Twitter wants to know what your favorite boxing match is.
My favorite boxing currently?
Yeah.
Oh, currently I love to see this boxer named Gennady Golovkin and his middleweight. They call him Triple G. He's from Kazakhstan, and he is electric. He is electric. He is really good, and I've been saying that for years. I was sitting at home. We were watching a boxing match, you know, major undercards. My husband and I, we like to watch. And my husband goes, "Rose, look at that guy's stance." And I went, "Who is he?" And I just started telling everyone in the boxing world, he's going to be a star. And they go, "No, he's not. No, he's not." He just sold out Madison Square Garden in his last fight.
I got an honorary degree from the University of Kazakhstan.
You're kidding?
I swear to God. Yeah, I was in Kazakhstan making a speech. That's a great country, by the way. I just throw that in. At Jay Lukovich tweets, how have you stayed so young and beautiful? What is your secret?
Oh, you know what? I think a major part of it, and first of all, thank you very much. I think it's just good genes. You know, it's that Caribbean blood. I just got lucky, really, honestly. And then also, I really think is that all I drink is coffee, water, and wine. That's
Where'd you get the Jewish accent?
Larry, I was born in Greenpoint Hospital in Williamsburg. I lived in South Williamsburg.
All the babies were Jewish.
Yeah, except me. And yeah.
Coffee.
And then, you know, in Bushwick, I lived in North Bushwick, whereas Eastern Europeans.
I know that, of course.
Yeah.
We're going to finish the game with a little game called If You Only Knew. I
Okay.
just throw questions at you. Remember the first person you kissed?
Yes.
What was his name?
His name was Anthony. And it was at a party, and he asked me to slow dance, and it turned into a fast dance, but we were still slow dancing.
How old were you?
I was 13 years old.
Did you have a childhood celebrity crush?
Yes. Andy Gibb and Robbie Benson. And the number one of all time, John Travolta.
From
Saturday Night Fever, but even from Welcome Back, Kotter.
I love Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah, Barbarino.
Guilty pleasure?
Oh, guilty pleasure is watching boxing, eating fried chicken, and consuming large amounts of dark chocolate.
Other than New York or Puerto Rico, where would you want to be if you couldn't be either of those places?
If I couldn't be, geez, I don't know, maybe like Vermont.
Vermont? Are you not Vermont? If there's any not Vermont, it's you. Finally,
It's beautiful in Vermont.
what's the best thing about Brooklyn?
The best thing about Brooklyn are its people, the original people. I mean, it got
Nothing
heart
like it,
and
man.
soul, nothing like it. Mom and pop shops, you know, different neighborhoods, all these different ethnicities coexisting with one another. And you know what? If you're a real Brooklynite, you do say, I'm going to go into the city.
Going into the city. When we
That's
lived
what
in
you said.
Brooklyn, you never went into Manhattan. You're going into the city.
That's right.
Thanks to my guest, the delightful Rosie Perez. Catch her on The View weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Pacific on ABC. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Kingstings. See you next time.